The council chamber fell silent as the holographic display flickered to life. Captain Jiho Park stood at the center of the circular room, surrounded by representatives from 14 different species. The air smelled of recycled atmosphere and tension. Axis 7, the station's artificial intelligence, projected the data in cold blue light. Numbers scrolled past, each one worse than the last. The insectoid commander Vakmar clicked his mandibles together, a sound that meant displeasure in his language. "The situation is clear," Axis 7 announced in its emotionless voice. "Sigma Outpost has been compromised by an unknown pathogen. The Rick's defense grid surrounds the system. Any rescue attempt has a 0% probability of success." Jiho crossed his arms and stared at the spinning model of the Void Nebula. Somewhere in that mess of radiation and stellar debris, 3,000 people waited to die. 200 of them were human. All of them were terrified. Ambassador Taman, representing Earth's diplomatic corps, stepped forward. His face looked tired. "There must be something we can do." "The mathematics are absolute," Axis 7 replied. "The Ricks have positioned 47 automated weapons platforms in a spherical formation. The nebula's interference prevents long-range teleportation. Any ship approaching the outpost will be destroyed before reaching rescue range. Survival probability? 0.00%. Vakmar's translator box crackled. "The Coalition cannot risk ships for a doomed mission. The Ricks claim quarantine protocols. We must respect their territorial claim." "Territorial claim?" Taman's voice rose. "Sigma Outpost is a neutral research station. The Ricks have no legal authority there. Legal authority becomes irrelevant when weapons are involved." An amphibious delegate gurgled from across the chamber. "We vote to abandon the outpost. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few." Jiho had remained quiet throughout the debate. He watched the hologram rotate, studying the defense pattern. His navigator, Lieutenant Hana Kim, stood beside him. She noticed the slight twitch at the corner of his mouth. She had served with him for 5 years. That twitch meant he was planning something stupid. The vote proceeded quickly. 12 species voted to abandon Sigma Outpost. Only humans and 1 other species abstained. The decision was made. 3,000 lives would be sacrificed for political convenience and mathematical certainty. Taman looked at Jiho. "Captain, I'm sorry. My hands are tied," Jiho finally spoke. His voice was calm, almost cheerful. "Axis, run that probability calculation again for me." "The calculation is unchanged, Captain Park. 0% survival probability for any rescue attempt." A grin spread across Jiho's face. It was not a happy grin. It was the kind of grin that made people nervous. "So you're saying there's a chance?" The chamber erupted in confusion. Vakmar's translator struggled to keep up with the clicking sounds. "Captain Park, you cannot possibly misunderstand basic mathematics. 0% means impossible." "Impossible is just a word," Jiho said. "I've done impossible things before, usually right after someone told me not to." Axis 7's holographic avatar materialized, a floating sphere of blue light. "Captain, I must clarify. When I say 0%, I mean that in 10,000 simulated scenarios, not one resulted in successful rescue. The variables are insurmountable. Did any of those simulations include humans being stubborn? Stubbornness is not a measurable combat advantage." "Then your simulations are incomplete." Hana touched Jiho's arm gently. "Sir, we should discuss this privately." They left the council chamber together. Behind them, alien delegates muttered in a dozen languages. None of them understood what had just happened. Humans confused them on the best days. Today was not the best day. In the corridor outside, Jiho stopped at a viewport. The stars looked cold and distant. Hana stood beside him, waiting. She knew he would talk when he was ready. "My sister is on that station," Jiho said quietly. Hana blinked. "I didn't know." "Dr. Minji Lee, she uses our mother's family name. She's the chief medical officer there." He pressed his hand against the cold glass. "She sent me a message 3 days ago. Showed me a picture of a little girl named Ji-Wan, 6 years old. Draws pictures of spaceships all day." "Jiho, I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just tell me you're with me." Hana didn't hesitate. "Always. What's the plan?" "We steal a ship. Gather a crew. Go get our people. The Coalition will call it treason. The Coalition can call it whatever they want. I'll be too busy to answer." Within 6 hours, word had spread through the human sections of the station. Captain Jiho Park was putting together a suicide mission. Volunteers only. No questions asked. No guarantees given. The response surprised even Jiho. Kyung, a demolitions expert with a criminal record and a good heart, showed up first. "I got nothing better to do than die for a good cause," he said. Youngji, fresh out of the academy, arrived next. She looked terrified but determined. "My first assignment shouldn't be abandoning people. Doesn't feel right." Dr. Minji appeared via secure transmission, her face gaunt but resolute. "Little brother, don't be an idiot. The Ricks will kill you." "Probably," Jiho agreed, "but I'm coming anyway. The plague isn't as bad as they're saying. We've managed to contain it to 3 sections. I think the Ricks are lying about the severity." "Why would they lie? Sigma Outpost sits on the largest deposit of quantum crystals ever discovered. If everyone here dies, the Ricks can claim salvage rights." Jiho's jaw tightened. "Then we definitely can't let that happen." The ship they chose was a modified transport called the Bright Hope. Someone suggested renaming it. Kyung came up with Longshot. Everyone agreed it was perfect. Hagus 7 monitored the preparations with growing concern. The AI contacted Jiho directly. "Captain Park, I must register a formal objection to this course of action." "Objection noted. You will die. Your crew will die. The mathematics are absolute." "Axes, let me ask you something. Have you ever hoped for something impossible?" "Hope is an emotional state. I do not experience emotions." "Then you can't understand why I'm doing this." "Correct. I calculate that your decision is irrational, illogical, and counterproductive to your survival." Jiho smiled. "Sounds about right." As the Longshot prepared to depart, something unexpected happened. An avian engineer named Sola Brightwing requested permission to board. She was not human. She was not even from a species allied with humanity, but she stood at the airlock with a toolkit and a determined expression. "Humans saved my colony when others said it was impossible," she explained in halting standard. "I pay debt. I help." Jiho shook her wing hand. "Welcome aboard." The Coalition sent 3 ships to block their departure. Jiho opened a channel to Vokmar. "Commander, I respectfully request you move your vessels." "Captain Park, this is mutiny. Return to station immediately." "Can't do that. People are dying. People die every day. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Not in my book. Now move or I'll move you." Vokmar's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You cannot fight 3 Coalition cruisers. Watch me." Hana's fingers flew across her console. "Course plotted. Engines hot. Ready when you are, Captain." Jiho sat in his command chair and looked at his crew. Hana, focused and calm. Kyung, grinning like a madman. Youngji, scared but steady. Sola, checking systems with professional efficiency. They were all crazy. They were all volunteers. They were all exactly where they wanted to be. "Axis," Jiho said. "Final calculation. What's our probability of success?" 0.00%, Captain. This is suicide." Jiho's grin returned. "Then let's go do the impossible." "Hana, punch it." The Longshot's engines flared to life. The ship accelerated past the Coalition blockade before they could react. By the time Vokmar ordered weapons charged, the transport had vanished into hyperspace. In the council chamber, Axis 7 updated its probability models. The numbers didn't change. 0% survival. Impossible odds. Mathematical certainty of failure. The AI noted this in its logs with something almost like curiosity. Humans were either the bravest species in the galaxy or the most foolish. Possibly both. Axis 7 decided to monitor the situation closely. If nothing else, it would provide valuable data on the limits of human irrationality. The Longshot disappeared into the Void Nebula. Behind them, the Coalition watched in confusion. Ahead of them, certain death waited with mathematical precision, and somewhere in between, 3,000 people dared to hope. The Void Nebula looked like a bruise on the face of space. Purple and black clouds of radiation churned between dying stars. Sensors screamed warnings every few seconds. Hana silenced them with practiced efficiency. "Nebula entry in 30 seconds, she announced. Jiho studied the navigation display. The path through the nebula looked like a maze designed by a sadistic child. One wrong turn meant flying into a radiation storm that would cook them alive. "Axis, how's our probability looking?" The AI's voice came through the ship's speakers. "Unchanged, Captain. 0.03% survival probability. The nebula environment introduces 17 additional variables, all negative." Kyung laughed from his station near engineering. Hey Axis, what if we just don't die? Does that help the numbers? That is not how probability functions. Worth a shot. The long shot plunged into the nebula. Immediately, the ship began shaking. Radiation washed over the hull in waves. Youngji gripped her console, her knuckles white. This was her first real mission. She had imagined glory and adventure. She had not imagined feeling like she was inside a washing machine full of knives. Steady, Hana murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Her hands moved across the controls with surgical precision. When the ship tilted left, she corrected right. When turbulence hit, she anticipated it 3 seconds early. Sola worked in the engine room, her wing fingers adjusting systems faster than human hands could manage. The modifications she had made in the past 6 hours were borderline illegal. They were also the only reason the ship was still intact. First defense platform in range, Hana reported. Detecting weapons lock. Jiho leaned forward. Evasive pattern alpha. Sir, that pattern won't work against automated targeting. I know. That's why we're not using it. Take us through the asteroid field at Mark 77. Axis 7 immediately protested. Captain Park, that trajectory has a 99% collision probability. What about the other 1%? That is a margin of error in my calculations. Good enough for me. Hana looked at Jiho. He nodded. She took a deep breath and programmed the course. Everybody hold on to something. The long shot dove into an asteroid field that hadn't been charted in 50 years. Rocks the size of buildings spun through space in chaotic patterns. The ship weaved between them like a needle through thread. The Rick's defense platform fired. Massive energy beams cut through space, vaporizing asteroids, but the targeting computer had been programmed for normal ship behavior. It couldn't predict Hana's flying, which wasn't normal by any definition. She threw the ship into a spin using an asteroid's gravity to slingshot around a cluster of debris. The defense platform's weapons carved empty space behind them. Another asteroid exploded to their left. Shrapnel pinged off the hull. Shields at 60%, Youngji called out. We'll make it, Jiho said calmly. How do you know? Because we have to. It wasn't logic. It wasn't even optimism. It was pure stubborn determination, and somehow it worked. The long shot emerged from the asteroid field with hull damage but intact. The defense platform's sensors lost them in the debris and radiation. Axis 7 ran new calculations. That maneuver should have resulted in collision 47 times. I do not understand how you survived, Kyung grinned. We're humans. We specialize in things that don't make sense. Dr. Minji's voice crackled over the secure channel. The signal was weak but clear enough. Jiho, is that really you? Hey sis? Told you I'd come. You're an idiot. Runs in the family. Minji's image appeared on the screen. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Behind her, the medical bay was full of people. The plague is mostly contained. We lost 43 people in the first week, but we figured out a treatment. The Ricks lied about how dangerous it was. Can you prove that? I have all the data. Medical logs, infection rates, treatment protocols. If we can get this information to the Coalition, the Ricks will have to answer for their blockade. Jiho nodded. We'll get you out. All of you. How many people total? 3,012. We have enough transport pods for emergency evacuation, but they're short range. Someone would need to be close enough to receive them. We'll be there in 48 hours. 48 hours? Axis 7 interjected. Captain, current navigation. Through the nebula will require 96 hours. Minimum, then we'll take shortcuts. There are no shortcuts through a radiation nebula. Not with that attitude. Hana pulled up the navigation charts. Sir, there is one route that could save time. It goes through the Crimson Belt. Everyone on the bridge fell silent. The Crimson Belt was a region of the nebula where 3 different stellar phenomena overlapped. Ships that entered it were crushed by gravitational shear or fried by radiation. The belt had a 100% fatality rate. Perfect, Jiho said. Plot it. Captain, I must strongly object, Axis 7 stated. The Crimson Belt is absolutely lethal. No ship has ever successfully traversed it. No ship has ever tried with this crew. Youngji raised her hand tentatively. Sir, I know I'm new, but isn't this actually impossible? Kyung patted her shoulder. Kid, you're gonna learn something important today. Impossible just means nobody's been crazy enough yet. The preparation for the Crimson Belt took 6 hours. Sola reinforced the shields using spare parts and some creative engineering, that would make safety inspectors weep. Kyung rigged the ship's power core to dump excess energy into the deflector array. It would either save them or explode spectacularly. Either way, it'll be memorable, he said cheerfully. Hana ran simulations. All of them ended in destruction. She ran them again anyway, looking for patterns, angles, anything that might help. Jiho sat beside her, watching the data scroll past. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. Any of you. I'd understand if you wanted to turn back. Hana didn't look up from her console. Remember the academy? They asked us why we wanted to explore space. You said you wanted to see if humans were as crazy as everyone said. I was joking. You were honest, and the answer is yes, we are that crazy. She smiled. That's why we're the only ones who would try this. The crew gathered on the bridge as they approached the Crimson Belt. Through the view screen they could see space itself twisting. Colors that shouldn't exist swirled in impossible patterns. It looked beautiful and terrifying. Entering the belt in 3, 2, 1, Hana counted down. The ship lurched. Gravity went sideways, then upside down, then directions that didn't have names. Youngji's stomach tried to leave through her throat. Sola's feathers stood on end as electricity crackled through the air. Shields holding, Kyung reported. Barely. Radiation levels critical, Youngji added, fighting nausea. Hana flew like someone possessed. She didn't follow the laws of physics because in the Crimson Belt, physics had given up and gone home. She reacted on instinct, trusting her training and something deeper, something that all good pilots had, the ability to feel where the ship needed to be. A gravitational wave tried to tear them apart. Hana rode it like a surfer on an impossible wave. The ship screamed but held together. Another wave hit from a different angle. She used the first wave's momentum to counter the second. Axis 7 stopped providing probability updates. The numbers had become meaningless. They were in territory where mathematics broke down and only intuition mattered. Almost through, Hana said through gritted teeth. The ship spun, twisted, and somehow stayed intact. Jiho watched Hana work and felt a surge of pride. She was the best navigator in the fleet, and she was proving it in conditions that would kill anyone else. With a final lurch, the longshot burst out of the Crimson Belt. Space returned to normal. Gravity pointed down again. The crew took collective deep breaths. Status report, Jiho ordered. Shields at 12%. Hull integrity at 78%. We're alive. Kyung sounded surprised by that last part. Time saved. Hana checked her calculations. 46 hours. We'll reach Sigma Outpost in 2 days. Outstanding work, everyone. Axis 7's voice carried something that almost sounded like confusion. You survived the Crimson Belt. This should not be possible. Add it to the list of things we shouldn't have survived, Jiho replied. Captain Park, I am beginning to detect a pattern. Humans consistently exceed probability predictions. I cannot account for this variable. That's the human factor, Axis. We don't know when to quit. Sola appeared on the bridge, her feathers singed but her spirits high. Engines need rest. We need rest, but we made it. You did amazing work down there, Jiho told her. Humans taught me something. Hope is not mathematics. Hope is choice. I choose to believe. Youngji, still pale from the journey, managed a weak smile. Is every mission like this? No, Kyung said. Usually they're harder. She laughed despite everything. They all did. It was the laughter of people who had just cheated death and knew they would have to do it again soon. In the Coalition Council chambers, Axis 7 transmitted updated data. The longshot had survived impossible odds twice. The delegates watched in confusion and growing interest. How were humans doing this? Ambassador Taman stood before the council. As you can see, Captain Park's mission continues. Against all predictions. Vokmar clicked his mandibles. Luck is not strategy. Maybe not. But determination might be. The message spread through Coalition space. Humans had entered the Crimson Belt and lived. The impossible was happening, and 3,000 people trapped on Sigma Outpost began to believe that rescue might actually come. Director Doyen looked worse than the last transmission. His hair had gone gray in places it hadn't been gray before. The research station behind him showed signs of damage. Scorch marks on the walls, emergency lighting flickering. Captain Park, the situation has deteriorated, Doyen said. His voice was steady but tired. The Ricks tightened their blockade. They're jamming our communications. You're getting through only because your sister rigged a quantum relay that probably violates 6 safety protocols. Dr. Minji appeared beside Doyen. 7 protocols, actually. But who's counting? Jiho smiled despite the tension. How are the patients? Stable. The treatment is working better than expected. We haven't had a new infection in 72 hours. Minji's expression hardened. The plague was never as deadly as the Ricks claimed. I ran the data 3 times. This was containable from day 1. They wanted you all to die, Hana said from her station. Exactly. Dead researchers can't contest salvage claims. The quantum crystal deposits here are worth more than some planets. Doyun pulled up a holographic display. The Ricks fleet has 43 ships in a spherical formation around the station. They're not attacking, just waiting. Like vultures, poetic, Kyung muttered. Also terrible. Jiho studied the formation. Axis analysis. The AI's voice filled the bridge. The Ricks formation is mathematically optimal. No gaps, overlapping fields of fire, automated coordination. Probability of penetrating this defense, 0.001%. So you're saying there's a chance. Captain Park, that is not how probability works. Keep telling yourself that. Youngji had been running sensor sweeps of the nebula. Sir, I'm picking up something strange. The radiation patterns shift every 6 hours. Like clockwork. Sola cocked her head, a gesture that meant she was thinking. Nebula is alive. Not alive like us. Alive like weather. Patterns, cycles, rhythms. Hana pulled up the radiation data. She's right. The interference peaks and valleys are predictable. During the valleys, sensor range drops by 40%. For us and for them. Jiho said slowly. A plan was forming. If we can't see them clearly, they can't see us clearly. They have 43 ships. We have 1 transport. Then we'll need to be creative. The plan that emerged over the next 4 hours was audacious, ridiculous, and just might work. It relied on several assumptions, all of which Axis 7 deemed unlikely. That made Jiho more confident, not less. We'll broadcast a fake distress signal, Jiho explained to his crew. Make it look like a Rick ship in trouble. When their formation shifts to investigate, we slip through the gap. Kyung raised an eyebrow. Sir, the Ricks aren't stupid. They'll see through a fake signal. They'll see what they expect to see. A Rick ship uses specific protocols, encryption patterns, and distress codes. We have all of that from Minji's research data. The station has been monitoring Rick's communications for weeks. It's still a long shot, Hana said. Good thing that's the name of our ship. They waited for the radiation valley. 6 hours felt like 6 years. The crew tried to rest but mostly just stared at screens and double-checked systems. Youngji practiced the signal broadcast 47 times. Kyung armed every weapon the transport had, which wasn't many but was better than nothing. Sola worked her engineering magic, modifying the Longshot's signature to match Rick's vessels as closely as possible. Not perfect, she admitted, but in the interference may be good enough. Ambassador Taemin's face appeared on the secure channel from Coalition headquarters. Captain Park, the Council is monitoring your progress. Opinion is divided, let me guess. Half think we're brave, half think we're suicidal. Actually, it's more like 30% brave, 60% suicidal, 10% fascinated by the scientific impossibility of your survival. I'll take what I can get. Taemin's expression grew serious. Jiho, there are other humans in the Coalition. Families watching, children. They're seeing what you're doing. Win or lose, you're showing them something important. What's that? That some things are worth the risk. The transmission ended. Jiho sat in his command chair and thought about responsibility. He was responsible for his crew, for his sister, for 3,000 strangers, for the children watching who believed that heroes were real. No pressure, he muttered. The radiation valley arrived on schedule. Sensor range dropped across the entire region. The Ricks fleet maintained position, but their coordination became less precise. Small gaps appeared in their formation, milliseconds of opportunity. Now or never, Jiho said. Youngji broadcast the signal. The fake distress call went out in perfect Ricks protocol. Emergency codes flashed. A ship in the northern quadrant reporting engine failure. Life support critical, requesting immediate assistance. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Axis 7 monitored Rick's communications. They are analyzing the signal. Probability of success dropping to, don't tell me the numbers, Jiho interrupted. Just tell me if they're moving. 15 ships altering course toward the distress signal. 15 ships. The northern section of the blockade was shifting. A gap was opening. It would last maybe 3 minutes before they realized the trick. Hana, take us in, Maximum stealth. The long shot glided forward like a ghost. Running silent, running dark, every non-essential system powered down. They moved through the gap in the Rix formation with meters to spare. A Rix cruiser passed within 50 meters. Its sensors swept past them. The interference and Sola's modifications made them look like debris. Just another piece of wreckage in a nebula full of wreckage. They're investigating the source of the distress call, Axis 7 reported. They will discover the deception in approximately 90 seconds. We only need 60, Jiho said. Hana's flying was poetry. Not the pretty kind, but the kind that made you feel alive. She threaded through the formation, using every asteroid, every radiation cloud, every shadow. The ship danced through space with impossible grace. Clear of the perimeter, she announced. Rix have discovered the fake signal, Axis 7 added. They are attempting to locate us. Too late. Jiho allowed himself a small smile. Sigma outpost, we're coming in. Doyen's face showed pure relief. We see you on sensors. How did you get through? With style and bad decision-making. Prepare for emergency evacuation. But as they approached the station, the Rix fleet began repositioning. They had been fooled once. They wouldn't be fooled twice. The ships moved to intercept, weapons charging. Incoming, Hana warned. The first energy beam cut through space where they had been a second before. Hana jinked left, then up, then into a spiral that made Youngji's vision blur. We can't fight 43 ships, Kyung stated the obvious. We don't have to fight them, Jiho said. We just have to not die long enough to load passengers. That's basically the same thing. The station's docking bay doors opened. Transport pods began launching from every available port. Hundreds of them. Small escape vessels designed for short-range evacuation. They scattered like seeds in the wind. Minji, what are you doing? Jiho demanded. His sister's voice came through clearly. Improving the odds. The Rix can't track all of us. Some pods will make it to you. It was chaos. Beautiful, desperate chaos. The pods flew in every direction. Some headed for the long shot. Others aimed for asteroid clusters where they could hide. A few even went toward the Rix ships, desperate attempts to confuse sensors. The Rix commander, Inkara, watched from her flagship. She had seen many battles, many strategies. But this was something different. This was not military tactics. This was something primal and desperate. This was survival at any cost. Her second-in-command, Krelmar, turned to her. Orders, Commander? Inkara hesitated. The mission was simple. Contain the plague. Secure the resources. But the plague was contained. That data was clear now, and these people were not soldiers. They were researchers, children, families. Target the pods, she ordered. Then more quietly, non-lethal force where possible. Krelmar's expression shifted. Among the Rix, questioning orders was rare. Commander, the pods are unarmed. They pose no threat. Are you questioning me? I am trying to understand our purpose here. On the long shot, Kyung was coordinating pod retrieval. Their cargo bay could hold maybe 200 people if they packed tight. The ship's teleporter, never designed for this scale of operation, was pulling people aboard in batches. Structural integrity at 60%, Sola reported from engineering. We are loading too much weight. Keep loading, Jiho ordered. A little girl appeared on the view screen. She had been in one of the first pods to dock. She clutched a drawing of a spaceship. Are you the rescue ship? She asked. Youngji recognized her from the files. You're Ji-1. My picture came true, the girl said, showing the drawing. It looked remarkably like the long shot. Jiho knelt beside the screen so he was at her eye level. We're going to get you home. I promise. More pods arrived. The cargo bay filled with people. The ship groaned under the weight. Axis 7 provided constant updates that everyone ignored. They were well past safe capacity. They were well past any definition of reasonable. And then something extraordinary happened. New signatures appeared on sensors. Ships entering the nebula from coalition space. Not military vessels. Civilian transports. Cargo haulers. Personal yachts. A ragtag fleet of volunteers. We're getting a transmission, Youngji said, surprise in her voice. The screen showed a avian ship captain. This is Captain Sorfar of the Brightwing Fleet. We heard humans needed help. We came. Another ship appeared. Then another. Species that had never cooperated before. Species that had abstained from the council vote. Species that barely knew what humans were. They came because they had seen something impossible happening and decided to be part of it. Ambassador Taman's voice came through on the Coalition channel. Jiho, you started something. The whole galaxy is watching. You showed them that giving up is not the only option. The volunteer fleet spread out, retrieving pods that the Longshot couldn't reach. The Rix formation fractured as they tried to respond to threats from multiple directions. Inkara found herself facing not a military engagement, but a moral dilemma. Commander, Krelmar said quietly, there are children in those pods. I know. We were told the plague was lethal. The humans proved it was not. We were told this was necessary, was it? Inkara looked at the chaos on her screens, at the desperate parents protecting children, at the volunteers risking everything, at the humans who refused to calculate odds before doing what was right. No, she admitted. It was not. She opened a channel. Not to her fleet. To the Longshot, Jiho's face appeared. He looked tired but determined. Commander Inkara, nice of you to call. Captain Park, you are either the bravest human I have encountered or the most foolish. Can it be both? Despite everything, Inkara felt her mandibles twitch in what passed for a Rix smile. I am transmitting data to Coalition headquarters. Medical files that prove the plague was never as dangerous as reported. Evidence that my superiors knew this. Why help us? Because some things matter more than following orders. Your species taught me that today. The Rix fleet powered down weapons. They didn't help with the rescue, but they stopped hindering it. It was enough. The evacuation took 4 more hours. Every soul from Sigma Outpost made it to safety. 3,012 people lived because one ship refused to accept impossible odds. Axis 7 ran final calculations. Given the initial parameters, this outcome had a 0% probability. Add a new variable to your calculations, Jiho suggested. What variable? Hope. Hope is not quantifiable. Then you're missing the most important part. The Longshot's cargo bay looked like a refugee camp. People sat on every available surface. Children cried. Parents tried to comfort them. Medical personnel moved through the crowd, checking for injuries and illness. Dr. Minji worked without rest, her hands steady despite exhaustion. She had been awake for 36 hours straight. When Jiho tried to make her take a break, she just shook her head and kept working. These people need me, she said simply. Seo-jun, the station's security chief, helped organize the evacuation. He was a big man with gentle hands directing traffic and calming fears. Move to the port side. We need to balance the weight. Yes, bring your bags. No, the cat can come too. Everyone gets out. The volunteer ships formed a protective formation around the Longshot. The avian vessels were graceful. The amphibious ships looked clumsy, but moved with surprising agility. A cargo hauler from a species called the Teln had modified its holds to carry people instead of goods. This is unprecedented, Axis 7 observed. 17 different species cooperating without formal alliance or command structure. That's what happens when you give people something to believe in, Hana said. She was coordinating flight patterns, making sure ships didn't collide in the crowded space. Youngji monitored communications. Hundreds of messages were pouring in. News agencies wanted interviews. Coalition officials demanded status reports. But most touching were the personal messages. Captain Park, this is the Bright Hope from Epsilon Station. We're a human colony ship. We named our children after your crew. Thank you for showing us what humanity means. Longshot, this is Trade Vessel Morningstar. We have medical supplies if you need them. Whatever you need. Captain, my daughter drew your ship. She says she wants to be like you when she grows up. Please come home safe. Jiho read each message even though he didn't have time. These weren't just words. They were proof that actions mattered, that standing up for what was right could inspire others. On the Rix flagship, Commander Inkara prepared her report. Krelmar stood beside her waiting. They both knew what transmitting the truth would mean. Court-martial, disgrace, perhaps imprisonment. You don't have to do this, Krelmar said. You could blame the humans. Say they attacked us. I could, Inkara agreed. But I won't. Send the transmission. The data went out on all channels. Medical logs showing the plague was 98% survivable with basic treatment. Communications proving Rix leadership had known this. Financial records showing the quantum crystal assessment. The galaxy learned the truth in real time. The Rix had manufactured a crisis to steal resources. 3,000 people had nearly died for profit. The backlash was immediate and fierce. In the coalition chambers, Ambassador Taman stood before the assembly. The mood had shifted dramatically from 3 days ago. Species that had voted to abandon Sigma Outpost now looked uncomfortable. The humans showed us something important, Taman said. They showed us that mathematics is not morality. That probability is not destiny. They risked everything because it was right, not because it was smart. Vakmar clicked his mandibles slowly. The humans succeeded through luck and recklessness. Did they, though? A representative from the Brightwing species stood. Or did they succeed because they refused to accept failure? Captain Park was told he had 0 chance of survival. He went anyway. Now 3,000 lives are saved. And 43 other species sent ships to help, another delegate added. The human example inspired action across the galaxy. The debate raged for hours. Some species argued for maintaining logical decision-making. Others suggested that pure logic had failed them. If the coalition had acted, no rescue would have been necessary. Ambassador Sunmi, another human diplomat, addressed the chamber. We're not saying abandon reason. We're saying consider heart alongside logic. The Ricks calculated that letting people die was acceptable losses. Humans calculated that acceptable losses don't exist when it comes to lives. Emotional decision-making is dangerous, an amphibious delegate argued. So is cold decision-making, Sunmi countered. Balance requires both. Logic tells you what you can do. Heart tells you what you should do. Aboard the Longshot, the situation was becoming critical. Too many people in too small a space meant life support was failing. Oxygen levels dropped. Carbon dioxide rose. Sola worked miracles in engineering, but even miracles had limits. We need to transfer people to other ships, Hana said. Already happening, Seojin reported. But it's slow. The docking ports weren't designed for this volume. Little Jiwon tugged on Jiho's sleeve. Captain, is everything okay? He knelt down to her level. We're working on it. Are you scared? A little. But my teacher said brave people are always a little scared. Your teacher is smart. She's over there. Jiwon pointed to a woman helping organize supplies. She said, you're a hero. I'm just a captain doing his job. That's what heroes say. The transfer operation took 8 hours. People moved from ship to ship in careful choreography. The volunteer fleet captains coordinated like they had been working together for years instead of days. Dr. Minji finally collapsed from exhaustion. Kyung caught her before she hit the floor. Doc, you need rest. People need care. People need you alive. Take 4 hours. That's an order from someone who doesn't have authority to give orders. She smiled weakly. 4 hours. No more. Meanwhile, Axis 7 was having what could only be described as an existential crisis. The AI had run the numbers countless times. 0% survival probability. Yet everyone had survived. The mathematical models were fundamentally flawed. Captain Park, I require your assistance, Axis 7 said over the ship's comm. Jiho was helping distribute water rations. Kinda busy, Axis. This is important. My calculations were wrong. I cannot understand why. Come to the bridge. We'll talk. When Jiho arrived, he found the AI's holographic avatar flickering with unusual intensity. I have analyzed every decision you made. Each one violated optimal strategy, yet you succeeded. Sometimes optimal isn't the same as right. Explain. Jiho thought about it. Axis, you calculate probability based on known variables. Ship speed, weapon range, sensor capability. All things you can measure. But you can't measure determination. You can't quantify stubbornness. And you definitely can't calculate what happens when people decide they don't care about the odds. Those factors are not mathematically relevant. They're the most relevant factors of all. Logic tells you what's possible. But humans don't care about possible. We care about necessary. The AI processed this. You are suggesting that human decision-making includes variables I cannot measure. Exactly. You can't put hope into an equation. You can't assign a number to someone's refusal to give up. Those things exist outside your calculations. Then my calculations are fundamentally incomplete. No, they're just missing the human factor. Axis 7 went silent for several minutes. When it spoke again, something in its voice had changed. I would like to add a new variable to my programming. I will call it the human factor. It represents the probability increase when humans refuse to accept failure. How will you calculate it? I cannot. It is unquantifiable, but I will account for it nonetheless, Jiho smiled. That might be the smartest thing you've ever said. The rescue fleet began the journey back to Coalition space. They traveled slowly because some of the ships were damaged and all of them were overloaded. But they traveled together, a constellation of hope moving through the darkness. News of the rescue spread faster than they could travel. Every station, every planet, every colony heard the story. The humans who defied impossible odds. The captain who grinned when told he had no chance. The ragtag crew that changed what was possible. On a human colony world, children played a new game. They called it long shot. One child would be the captain, others would be the crew. They would announce impossible missions and then accomplish them through imagination and determination. On an avian world, Sola's clan declared a celebration. One of their own had participated in the legendary rescue. They painted her ship with honors and sang songs about the day hope became action. Even the Ricks were affected. Not the leadership who faced investigations and trials, but the common soldiers and crews who had watched Inkara and Krelmar choose honor over orders. Whispers spread through their military. Maybe there were things more important than efficiency. Commander Inkara sat in her ready room waiting for the tribunal. Krelmar entered without knocking. "Commander, the Coalition is offering you a deal. Testify against the leadership and they'll reduce charges." "I will testify. But I don't want a deal. I want to face full consequences for my role in this. Even though you ultimately helped the humans?" "I followed illegal orders. I waited too long to act. That I eventually did the right thing does not erase the wrong." She paused. "But Krelmar, you should take the deal. You questioned from the beginning. I questioned but obeyed. I am equally responsible." They sat in silence, two soldiers contemplating the price of delayed morality. Outside the window, the Longshot and its escorts flew past. Inkara watched them go. "They really did it," she said softly. 0% chance, and they did it anyway. "Humans are—" Krelmar searched for the word. "Extraordinary," Inkara finished. "Frustrating and illogical and absolutely extraordinary." Back on the Longshot, the crew gathered on the bridge. They were exhausted, running on fumes and determination. But they had done it. Every person saved, every life accounted for. G1 appeared with a new drawing. "I made this for you, Captain." The picture showed the Longshot surrounded by other ships all flying together. At the bottom, in careful letters, she had written, "Hope is when you try even when it's hard." Jiho hung it on the bridge where everyone could see it. "New mission patch," he declared. "Official as of right now." Youngji looked at the drawing, then at her captain. "Sir, what happens when we get back?" "The Coalition said we committed treason. Probably court-martial. Maybe medals. Possibly both. Was it worth it?" Jiho looked around the bridge. At Hana, who had flown through impossible space. At Kyung, who had held the ship together with willpower and duct tape. At Youngji, who had grown from a scared kid to a confident officer. At Sola, who had proven that hope transcended species. "Yeah," he said. "It was worth it." Axis 7's voice filled the bridge. "Captain Park, I have completed my analysis of the mission." "And?" "Your initial probability of success was 0.00%. Your final probability of success, accounting for the human factor, is 100%. How'd you figure that?" "Because you succeeded. Therefore, it was always possible. I simply lacked the data to calculate it." Hana laughed. "Axis, did you just learn hope?" "I learned that my calculations must account for the incalculable. This seems paradoxical but also necessary." "Welcome to being human," Kyung said. "It's all paradoxes." The fleet continued toward home. Behind them, the void nebula faded into the distance. Ahead, an uncertain future waited. But for the first time in Coalition history, that uncertainty felt like possibility instead of threat. 3,012 people lived because one captain heard impossible and said, "Watch me," and the galaxy would never be quite the same. The Coalition headquarters orbited a blue-green planet that reminded humans of Earth. As the rescue fleet approached, every ship in the system turned to watch. It was unprecedented, historic. The ragtag collection of vessels that had accomplished the impossible was coming home. Jiho stood on the bridge of the Longshot, watching the station grow larger on the view screen. "Axis, any idea what kind of reception we're getting?" "Unclear, Captain. I am detecting both military vessels and civilian transports. Also 17 news agency shuttles. Also what appears to be a parade formation of honor guard ships, so they can't decide if we're heroes or criminals, and that Assessment is accurate. Hana brought the ship in, smoothly despite the damage and overloaded systems. The docking bay was massive, designed to hold cargo vessels 10 times their size. It felt empty with just the Longshot inside. The crew gathered at the airlock. They looked terrible. Uniforms stained and torn, faces exhausted, hair unwashed for days. But they stood straight and proud. "Whatever happens," Jiho said quietly, "I want you to know it was an honor serving with you, sir." "You're making it sound like we're going to our execution," Youngji said. "We might be going to our court-martial, which is close." Kyung grinned. "At least they can't say we went quietly." The airlock opened. On the other side stood a delegation of coalition officials, military officers, and Ambassador Taman. Their expressions were unreadable. Behind them, unexpectedly, stood hundreds of people. Families from Sigma Outpost, volunteers from the rescue fleet, news reporters, curious onlookers. The docking bay was packed. Admiral Chen, the coalition's military commander, stepped forward. He was human, which could be good or bad depending on his mood. His face gave nothing away. "Captain Jiho Park, Lieutenant Hana Kim, you are hereby ordered to surrender your vessel and present yourselves for formal review." "Understood, sir." Jiho saluted. Then something unexpected happened. Admiral Chen saluted back. Not the quick, perfunctory salute of bureaucracy. The slow, deliberate salute of respect. Behind him, every military officer did the same. Then the civilians started clapping. It began slow, uncertain, then built into thunderous applause that echoed through the massive bay. Little Jiwon broke through the crowd and ran to Jiho, hugging his leg. "You came back!" Her mother followed, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. Thank you for bringing her home." More families pressed forward, not angry or demanding, just grateful. So desperately grateful. Admiral Chen raised his hand for silence. "Captain Park, you violated direct orders, stole a coalition transport, and committed numerous acts that technically constitute treason." "Yes, sir." "You also saved 3,000 lives, exposed Rick's corruption, and inspired the greatest volunteer mobilization in coalition history." Chen's stern expression cracked slightly. "The council is conflicted, I can imagine. However, there is the matter of a formal hearing. You and your crew will be required to testify. We understand. The hearing begins in 2 hours. I suggest you shower first." "You smell terrible." That got a laugh from the crowd. The tension broke. People surged forward with questions, congratulations, and requests. Jiho's crew was swept up in the chaos. Dr. Minji found her brother in the crowd. She looked better after a few hours of sleep. "You're an idiot. You already said that. It bears repeating." "Also, thank you," they hugged. It was brief and awkward, because neither of them was good at emotional displays, but it was real. Sola was surrounded by her clan. They touched wings in the traditional greeting, speaking rapidly in their language. She looked overwhelmed and happy. Director Doyen approached Jiho with Seojun beside him. "Captain, the research data from Sigma Outpost is secure. We have evidence of Rick's malfeasance. We also have something else." "What's that?" "Hope. Before you arrived, we had given up. Now we believe impossible things are possible." The formal hearing took place in the Grand Council chamber. Jiho and his crew sat at a long table facing the assembled representatives of 43 species. Camera drones floated overhead. This was being broadcast across the galaxy. Vakmar led the prosecution. "Captain Park, do you dispute that you violated direct coalition orders?" "No, I violated them." "Do you acknowledge stealing coalition property?" "The Longshot was technically borrowed without permission." "But yes. Do you understand that your actions endangered lives and could have triggered an armed conflict with the Ricks?" Jiho stood. "I understand that 3,000 people were going to die if someone didn't act. I understand that the coalition chose politics over lives, and I understand that I will not apologize for saving people." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some delegates demanded punishment. Others called for medals. The humans in the gallery started chanting, "Long shot, long shot," until security asked them to stop. Ambassador Sunmi stood. "If I may address the council?" "Proceed," the chairperson said. "We are debating the wrong question. The question is not whether Captain Park violated regulations. He did. The question is whether regulations should ever prevent us from saving lives. Regulations exist for a reason." Vakmar clicked. "They do, But regulations are tools, not masters. Captain Park saw people in need and acted. That action inspired 43 volunteer ships. It exposed Rick's corruption. It saved every single life on that station. Sunmi paused. It also reminded us what we're supposed to be. Which is? The chairperson asked. A coalition built on cooperation and mutual support. Not a bureaucracy that calculates acceptable losses. The debate continued for hours. Jiho watched delegates argue about duty, honor, logic, and emotion. It was fascinating and exhausting. Finally, Axis 7 requested permission to address the council. This was unprecedented. AIs observed but rarely participated in political proceedings. I have analyzed the Sigma Outpost rescue operation extensively. Axis 7 began. My initial calculation showed 0% survival probability. This calculation was mathematically sound based on all measurable variables. Then the humans succeeded through luck, Fakmar stated. No, they succeeded through factors I could not measure: determination, creativity, refusal to accept failure. I have designated this the human factor. The chamber went silent. I have updated my programming to account for this variable in all future calculations. It is unquantifiable yet undeniably real. Humans consistently exceed probability because they refuse to be limited by it. Are you suggesting, the chairperson said slowly, that we should base policy on unquantifiable variables? I am suggesting that excluding unquantifiable variables produces incomplete assessments. Logic and emotion are not opposites. They are complementary tools for decision-making. A delegate from a species that communicated through color changes asked, "Did an AI just argue for the importance of heart?" I argued for complete data. The human heart is data, just not data I can measure in traditional ways. The council took a recess. Jiho and his crew waited in an anteroom. Youngji paced nervously. Kyung dozed in a chair. Hana studied star charts because she couldn't sit still without doing something. Whatever happens, Sola said, I am honored to have flown with you. The honor was ours, Jiho replied. Ambassador Taman entered. The council is ready with their decision. They returned to the chamber. The chairperson stood, an ancient crystalline being whose species had been part of the coalition for 1,000 years. Captain Jiho Park, this council finds you guilty of violating direct orders, unauthorized use of coalition property, and reckless endangerment. Jiho's heart sank. However, the chairperson continued, we also recognize that your actions saved 3,000 lives and exposed serious corruption. After extensive debate, we have reached a compromise, which is, Jiho asked, you will receive a formal reprimand for violation of orders. This reprimand will be entered into your permanent record. The chairperson paused. You will also receive the Coalition Medal of Valor, the highest honor we can bestow, for exceptional courage and service. The chamber erupted in applause. Jiho stood there stunned. Furthermore, the chairperson raised a crystalline appendage for silence. This council hereby adopts the Park Protocol, named in your honor. Henceforth, coalition policy will be that no sapient life will be abandoned when rescue is possible. We will attempt rescue even when probability is low. We will no longer calculate acceptable losses when lives are at stake. Ambassador Sunmi was crying. So were half the humans in the gallery. Even some of the alien species showed what passed for emotional responses in their cultures. The human factor is real, the chairperson declared. Let us learn from it. The ceremony afterward was chaos. Medals were awarded. Speeches were made. Jiwan presented Jiho with another drawing, this one showing the whole crew as stick figure heroes. You're my favorite, she whispered. I think you're pretty great too, he whispered back. Commander, Inkara attended via video link from her holding cell. She was awaiting trial for her role in the Rix blockade. Captain Park, I wanted to say something. Go ahead. You showed me that efficiency without morality is not strength. It is cowardice. I failed to see that until it was almost too late. You made the right choice in the end. That counts. Does it? Yeah, it does. Krelmar appeared beside Inkara in the transmission. The human factor is spreading even among the Rix. Soldiers are questioning orders, asking if efficiency justifies everything. You started a revolution without firing a shot. Later, in a quiet moment, Jiho found himself alone on an observation deck. The stars looked the same as always, cold and distant and beautiful. Axis 7's holographic avatar appeared. Captain Park, may I ask you a question? Sure. How did you know you would succeed? I didn't. Then why attempt the rescue? Jiho thought about it. Axis, there's a difference between knowing something will work and knowing you have to try. I didn't know we'd succeed, but I knew we'd never forgive ourselves if we didn't try. That is illogical. Yeah, it's also human. The AI flickered thoughtfully. I am beginning to understand. The human factor is not about calculation. It is about choice. You chose hope over probability. Exactly. This is an inefficient way to make decisions. Probably. But it's the right way. Right and efficient are not always the same. Now you're getting it. The long shot was being repaired in a coalition shipyard. The damage was extensive but fixable. The crew visited their ship, walking through the scarred corridors. She held together when she shouldn't have, Sola said, running her wing fingers along a welded hull patch. That's because you're a miracle worker, Jiho told her. No. She held together because we believed she would. Maybe ships feel the human factor too. Kyung laughed. Now you're just being sentimental. Maybe, but we're alive, aren't we? The news agencies were calling it the miracle of Sigma Outpost. Stories spread about the captain who grinned at impossible odds, the crew that flew through the Crimson Belt, the volunteers who united to save strangers. Children across the galaxy played long-shot games. Schools taught about the human factor, and every coalition ship now bore a new inscription on their hulls: never leave anyone behind. Admiral Chen called Jiho to his office. Captain, I have your next assignment. Already? We just saved the galaxy. You saved 3,000 people and changed coalition policy. That's not saving the galaxy. That's Tuesday for you humans, Chen smiled. How would you like to command a new initiative? What kind of initiative? Rescue and recovery. Taking the park protocol from theory to practice. You'd train crews, develop tactics, and respond to situations where others say rescue is impossible. Sounds dangerous. Sounds like something you'd be good at. Jiho thought about it. About Hana's brilliant flying. About Kyung's impossible engineering. About Youngji's growth from scared kid to confident officer. About Sola proving that hope transcended species. I'm in. On one condition, which is, I pick my crew. Done. Welcome to the Coalition Rescue Service, Captain Park. The final gathering of the Sigma Outpost survivors happened in a memorial garden. They planted 3,000 trees, one for each person saved, and 43 more for the people who had died before the rescue arrived. Director Doyen gave a speech about loss and hope. Dr. Minji talked about the importance of trying even when success seemed impossible. Little Ji-won, coached by her mother, thanked the brave people who came to save them. When it was Jiho's turn to speak, he kept it simple. Someone once told me I had a 0% chance of success. They showed me the numbers, the calculations, the mathematical proof that rescue was impossible. He paused. I looked at those numbers and said, so you're saying there's a chance? The crowd laughed. Here's what I learned. Probability tells you what might happen. Determination tells you what will happen. And when you combine hope with action, impossible becomes just another obstacle to overcome. He looked at his crew standing nearby. We didn't do this alone. Every person here contributed. Every volunteer who came to help. Every coalition member who changed their mind about acceptable losses. You all made the impossible possible. The ceremony ended with the planting of one final tree. It was marked with a simple plaque. The human factor. When logic says no, heart says try anyway. That night, Jiho returned to the long shot. The ship was still in repairs, but her bridge was functional. He sat in his command chair and looked at Ji-won's drawing, now framed and mounted. Hana entered quietly. Couldn't sleep either? Too much happening. We changed things, didn't we? Yeah, we did. They sat in comfortable silence, watching stars through the viewport. What do you think happens next? Hana asked. More impossible missions. More people who need help. More calculations that say we can't succeed. And we'll do it anyway. Of course, that's what humans do. Across the galaxy, the effects of the Sigma Outpost rescue continued to spread. Species that had operated on pure logic began considering emotional factors. AIs updated their programming to account for unquantifiable variables. The Coalition created new rescue protocols that prioritize lives over efficiency. The Rix Empire underwent reforms. Commander Ankara's testimony exposed deep corruption. New leadership emerged, promising balance between efficiency and ethics. Krelmar became an advocate for what he called moral pragmatism. But perhaps most importantly, hope became contagious. When faced with impossible situations, people across the galaxy began asking themselves, what would the long-shot crew do? The answer was always the same: try anyway. Axis 7 continued to study the human factor. The AI created models, ran simulations, and analyzed data. The conclusion was always the same. Humans succeeded when they shouldn't because they refused to accept shouldn't. In a conversation with Jiho months later, Axis 7 asked, "Do you believe any obstacle can be overcome with sufficient determination?" "No," Jiho admitted. "Some things are truly impossible, but you can't know which things until you try, so you might as well try everything." That seems inefficient. It is, but it's also how you change the impossible into the inevitable. The Longshot completed repairs and launched on its first official rescue mission. The Coalition Rescue Service was operational. The crew was the same: Jiho, Hana, Kyung, Youngji, Sola, and now Dr. Minji as Chief Medical Officer. Their new mission involved a mining colony trapped by a stellar collapse. The probability of successful rescue was calculated at 2%. When Jiho heard the number, he grinned. "So you're saying there's a chance?" Axis 7, monitoring from headquarters, updated its probability models to account for the human factor. The new calculation showed a 97% success rate. "How did you calculate that?" Another AI asked. "Simple. I added the variable that humans refuse to lose." The mathematics become much more optimistic when you account for stubborn determination. The Longshot jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, a galaxy watched and learned. Ahead of them, impossible odds waited to be proven wrong. And somewhere in the Coalition archives, a new file was created. It was labeled "The New Equation, Logic plus Heart, Gear Possible." The equation was incomplete. It was unscientific. It violated every principle of pure mathematics. It was also undeniably true, because on that day when an AI calculated zero survival and a human grinned and said there was still a chance, the galaxy learned something important. Impossible is just another word for not yet attempted. And humans, stubborn creatures that they are, don't believe in impossible. They believe in trying. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough.